What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin Cash today. Shout out to the Dragon Riders in the House of the Dragon. Let's get into this. Hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content, and yeah, let's just dive in. So here we are sitting at 449. Right now, the monthly ribbon is postured to cross bullishly, but we're not quite there, right? The yellow line is still below the red line. If the month closed here or lower, we would not get the bullish cross. So what we want to see, we're at about 450. We want to bring that price up. I bet a price at 460 would do it, man, or at least like 480, something like that would do it. If in the next 2 days and 19 hours we could do that, that would be nice. That'd be a good goal to accomplish. I think it's very clear, and I want to address this first and foremost. I think it's very clear that we're not going to see prices above 1,000, probably not above or around 1,700 by the end of this year, and that's okay. That's not what we were expecting over this kind of whole phase that we were accumulating. But to be completely fair, the move that we got was also not what we were expecting out of this whole phase, right? I think it's very appropriate. Knowing what we know now, it's not going to sound appropriate what I'm about to say, but before this move up happened, when we were back here expecting a move like this or a move like this, you know, the moves that we've seen throughout this cycle, I think that that's appropriate. That's not reaching. That's appropriate. Expecting a move that would be bullish just like what the moves that we've seen before, and maybe even more bullish because we're getting a bullish cross on the monthly time frame. We're breaking out of our overall consolidation phase on a long-term multi-cycle time frame as well. That combination of things, I think we had every reason to believe that this move would be bullish as hell, right? That it would be more bullish even than the last two moves, right? Or at least something on the lines of that. But the reality is it wasn't. It wasn't, and December was a bit of a dud, and I think that threw everybody off. That caught everybody off guard there, and that it happens. Sometimes that happens, but that's okay. It was a dud in the sense that it was a underperformed month to what we were expecting, but it wasn't a dud in the sense that we found support at a very key area of support going through Bitcoin Cash's history, going all the way through its history, right? And I think that January will be what we were looking for in December. January will be that. And it's important not to get caught up in the chronological stuff, right? We've been talking about 1,700 by the end of the year for a very long time. Again, made more sense here, probably makes less sense now, obviously. But the real thing that I should have said, and I caught on to it sometime after I was saying 1,700 by the end of the year, it was probably like October or November that I started to figure out that the end of the year was not going to be the end of the move. It was going to be the end of January. So while it is discouraging that we are below $1,000 going into the end of the year for Bitcoin Cash, I don't think it's as discouraging yet, right? We need to see where we're going to be by the end of this move. If we come up here by the end of January, we're up here and we roll over like this, okay, guys, it's time to get discouraged, okay? But if by the end of January, we're all the way up here, any discouragement that you have right now that we're not above $1,000, it would evaporate. It would go away, right? Those targets by the end of January, that's basically on par with what we're expecting, right? We could expect anything from, I think, 1,300 to 1,700, at least 1,000 is what we're going for, right? But I wanted to address that just first and foremost because I know it's discouraging when you have your eyes set on higher targets that are more than twice the price that we're at now, and the whole month of December was basically a dud, right? I know it's discouraging, but don't get discouraged. It happens. It's statistically probable to happen. Bitcoin, right? Every single cycle, every cycle in its history, the last 13 months that it has in its cycle, it has like 3 red months out of those 13 months, okay? We're probably in the last 13 months now. This is one of those red months. We're just getting it out of the way. One of those red months for Bitcoin Cash too. You know what I mean? It just happens. So happened to be on a month that we were very much expecting things to be bullish, but that bullishness might have just been put on pause, and we're going to let that beast unleash in January. I really do think we will. I suspect that this next move up, unlike this move, I think that it'll be bigger, and I think it'll be faster, and I think that it will enable us to see prices that are anywhere from like 1,300 to 1,700 by the end of January. If we look at this high to low here, the next targets based off of this fib itself would be anything from the 1272 to the 1618, which is about $930 to $1,300. From a price perspective, it wouldn't really make too much sense to stop at 930. There's nothing really going on here as far as resistance goes. The 1414, it kind of makes more sense at 1,000, psychological resistance, and you've got a little bit of resistance here on a closing basis. The 1618 at 1,300 out of this primary zone, it makes the most sense to me. You're a lot closer to this area of resistance here. You know, if we go back in time, also pretty close to these areas of resistance back here and this area as well. But it also would make more sense, I think, to go higher, even higher still than the 1618. We could go all the way up to the 1886, which lines up very well precisely with this high right here, right? It's like perfect, literally perfect right there. And $1,700 would be what that price takes us to. Now the 886, the 1886 to the 200 level has been exactly where Bitcoin Cash has gone every single time that it's broken out of a relative high to relative relative high to relative low of any consolidation phase it's had, right? Here's its consolidation from back in June 2022 to June 2023, high to low. We went all the way up to the 1886 200 level, just above the 200 level even, right? We go to the next high to low for the next consolidation phase, high to low here. And then the next move up, the next high went just above the 200 level again, the 1886 to 200 area, somewhere in that area. From a high to low here for BCH, you know, calling for a move that at least goes to 1,300. I don't think that that's ludicrous at all. But then, especially something around $1,700 to $1,900, I think that it's completely appropriate to call for something like that. But we'll see. Time will tell. That's just based off of this fib, right? Based off of this here, from a relative high to a low, we've interacted with the 618 a couple times now. My assumption would be that we go to the 786, 886 area. Normally, that's my assumption. But it is completely possible with Bitcoin Cash that we could go a little bit above the 886. But again, in this sense, on this fib, the minimum targets would be $875 to $1,200. Either way, even at the lowest case, even at 875, which guys, if by the end of January Bitcoin Cash is only at 875, we are going to have to rethink our targets for the end of the cycle, right? If we're up here, at least, I think that we can still hold on to that 20K target by the end of the cycle. But if we're not at least there or higher, we're going to have to rethink things, right? But what was I just going to say? Even there, even at the smallest, at 875, being at 450 right now, that's basically a 100% growth from here by the end of January. And I don't think that it's going to do that, right? I think the average coin is going to see anything from like a 2 to 3x between now and the end of January. If Bitcoin Cash were to see a 2 to a 3x, I mean, a 2x would be at about $900. A 3x would be at about $1,300. Okay, and that's like the average, right? So 900 to 1,300 would be if Bitcoin Cash kept up with the average coin going into this next month of growth. I suspect that Bitcoin Cash will outperform the average coin, and we're gonna end the video on that note. I want to do one more thing, okay? We're gonna validate that. Hopefully, I don't know. I haven't looked at the chart, right? I just got the idea to do this now, so we're gonna do it together. But hopefully, we find some congruence. If we see things in the charts that disagree with what I'm saying, we might have to rethink our plans. I might give you a different target by the end of this. But if things go the way I think they're gonna go, we would. By the end of this video, we will have the expectation, the utmost confidence and expectation that Bitcoin Cash will not only see the upper limits of this zone, but potentially even beyond those limits as well. So let's now, talking about Bitcoin Cash keeping up, if not outperforming the average coin through January. The average coin is going to see a 2 to a 3x. A 2x would be all the way at the 786. A 3x would be all the way up here. A 2 to 3x is the average coin. If Bitcoin Cash were to keep up with the average coin, then this next chart would show that. If it were to underperform, this next chart will show that. And if it were to overperform, this next chart will show that as well. So we're going to do BCH USD versus others, right? Others, crypto total market cap, Bitcoin Cash on Coinbase. Sure, it's got the most historical data, and enter. Actually, what I want to do is I want to do others versus BCH. That's what I want to do, so we can at least get some numbers besides zero. Let's see. So now, essentially, if this goes up, that would mean that others is outperforming Bitcoin Cash. If this goes down, that means Bitcoin Cash is outperforming others. Others is all cryptocurrencies outside the top 10 cryptos by market cap valuation, right? So it's like the altcoin chart, right? Essentially, this going up means that most coins in the crypto space have been gaining value, have been doing better than Bitcoin Cash, and that makes sense, right? Because last cycle, Bitcoin Cash, it was definitely not a top performer, right? From an overall low to an overall high, I think a 22x in a whole bull cycle from your low to high, that's underperforming, right? I think the average crypto saw like 100x or more last cycle, you know what I mean? So it's no wonder that you saw that kind of growth. But here you are, the BCH others chart, topping off a little bit. The monthly actually looks kind of bearish. Looks like you're bearishly postured right now. You've got lower highs here. This is some kind of broadening top pattern, right? here, and you could be breaking out to the downside, you could be breaking out to the upside. A breakout to the upside would imply that BCH underperforms the market. A continual move sideways would imply BCH performs exactly with the market, and then a rejection here moving down would imply that Bitcoin Cash outperforms the average coin in the market, okay? Weekly. And what we're looking for maybe is not on a monthly basis, we're not looking for an overall rejection like this, right? Maybe just on a weekly. On a monthly basis, to be completely fair, this chart could gain value still, and Bitcoin Cash could still outperform every single coin in January. It's just maybe January we go down, and then the following months we proceed up. But let's just see. Weekly basis here. Looking a little bit bullish, getting into that overbought zone. Yeah. Maybe you continue higher, maybe. 3-day, a little bit of bearish divergence, not looking as convincing. If you wanted to move up, you probably would have done it already, so that's more of a case to be made for the downside, okay? Weekly's looking bullish, 3 days looking iffy. Daily time frame looks bearish. That's like double, triple bearish divergence right there, yeah. And volume's dying off. What about on the 4-hour? 4-hour time frame? The 4-hour looks good, I got to be honest. So a little bit of confliction in this chart. The daily and the 3-day look bearish. The weekly and the 4-hour look bullish. I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. And you are at a pretty critical point being here. If this is a broadening wedge pattern, being at like the top of this here, it would make the most sense, I suppose, to predict that you reject it. But it is possible you could break out to the upside. I don't know. I want to look at the 1-hour real quick and see if I can determine. The 1-hour to me looks like it wants to go down. Yeah, it does. Okay, so I think it does. And the 4-hour, that's kind of like a diamond top, kind of. You're rejecting the 60. Okay, I think the 4-hour goes down too. The 4-hour is more bearish than I thought, actually. All right, that's it. So you are going to move down. That's good. So Bitcoin Cash, at least, what I can say is at least over the coming days, probably over the coming week, Bitcoin Cash probably outperforms the majority of the market. Probably. Maybe even going into the end of January, which would make sense. So if it outperforms the majority of the market, because what I'm expecting for others is a 2 to a 3x overall, then that's a good case, guys. That's actually a really nice thing, because that really could imply that Bitcoin Cash is not just at $1,100 or $1,200 by the end of January, but that we're above that even. Because again, this is like the higher limits of what the average would be. This chart, if it starts to come down from here, would suggest that Bitcoin Cash is outperforming the average coin, which if it's outperforming the average coin, hey, maybe looking at the upper limits, even beyond the upper limits, could be something we could consider. And then that all makes sense from a fit perspective too. It's not just a hopes and dreams thing. It's actually something that we can observe here in this chart as well. So I actually want to pay attention to this chart. I know this video has gone on longer than I normally, well, really than I intended it to, but it's gone on longer than I normally make them as well. Look at that, man. Finding resistance here at previous areas of support too. This is good, guys. This is a good look. I'm glad we did this. We're going to look at this chart specifically, I think, a lot going into January, at least especially the first week. I think we're going to look at this probably every single day, just to see if we are, in fact, because we are at a very critical point here. If we go up a little bit higher, okay, we're breaking out to the upside. Bitcoin Cash will underperform the average coin, which isn't terrible. It's a top coin in itself, so those top coins, you know, the top 20, top 30 coins, they're not the best performers in the whole scheme of things. But if this were to go down, you know, that would definitely imply good things for Bitcoin Cash compared to the average coin. So, and it looks like it wants to go down. It's just it's at a very fickle point right now, a very kind of critical area where it would make sense to reject or it would make sense to break out. So I think we should keep our eyes on this like a hawk. Others versus BCH USD. Anyways, I'll see you guys on the next one. Hit that like button. Shout out to the Dragon Riders one last time. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.